Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers,
Hello, how do you do? We are the boys in white and blue, and we are back for another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Steve Pander.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenhammer.
And another packed show in store for you. You'd expect nothing less. It's the first of our off-season shows because, all the football's finished. So this episode, we are going to be kicking off our end-of-season festivities here on the show. We usually do these over 2 shows, but because things are going to be coming thick and fast, we're going to be looking at which players we'd keep, which ones we don't want, in a nice way. But we will still find time to talk about some of the football action that has taken place this weekend as well. Because, yeah, I'm stunned, but MLS is still going, apparently. But before we get into any of that, it's time for the final part of Steve's gift that is no longer keeping giving. And from some of the feedback I've had, there's a few folks that's going to be delighted by that. Let's be honest, this is a hit or miss section. I was explaining to someone this week why I do it. And the reason I do it is because it doesn't work on the radio podcast. Opening cards, holding them up to the camera that no one can see, I know it annoys people. And because I like comedians like Stuart Lee, who's an English comedian, and his whole routine is basically to try and annoy his audience by dissecting jokes or making one joke last 55 minutes in a show and stuff like that. It's Breckian is what he is described as. So let's just say that this is the Breckian Canadian podcast, and we'll get on with that.
In the North American version, you can see Andy Kaufman.
Oh, yes, because he kind of, yeah.
No pressure, Steve, but Kirk has said to me, what is Steve getting you guys this year?
I don't think it's going to be as good. I can tell you that.
I have been planning what we're going to do for new openings, and I've got a couple of things in mind, but we'll run it by you guys in our group chat, and then you guys, if you've anything as well. It doesn't have to be the same thing every week, but I've got a few fun things in store that will work on the radio, so don't worry about that. So we are opening the last pack of our cards. Now, Zach completed his set last week. So what I've said to Zach is, open your last pack today. We know they're all doubles, and if there's anyone exciting, just tell us who you've got. So do that quickly just now, because we're going to have a long show.
Come on, I want a pack full of, what's her name?
Alex Morgan
rookie cards, but I do not have that. Let's see what I got here. Oh, I got Jesus.
Oh, very apt for you.
I got Jesus, Marco Papa, Zach McMath's draft card, Neri Castillo, Kevin Hartman. Oh, there's one good card. A double, but a good one.
Kai Kamara. Oh, that's what a way to end. What I've done is I've written down the 6 numbers that I need and the 6 cards in this last pack. So let's see if I've got them. There's 2 Sounders I need and 1 Whitecap, and I don't know what Whitecap it is. But even if it's missing, I've already got the Whitecaps ones from that season already, so we're good. So I'm doing it without looking at it. So I'm doing that. So I've got a flounder. It's number 150. It's Osvaldo Alonso. So that's one that I need. Here's another one I need. Number 14 from Chivas, Mariano Trujillo.
Nice.
Oh, and here's the Whitecap one that I need. Number 168. He's
Jay
our
Demerit.
captain.
Yeah.
Yes, Jay Demerit. Oh,
It sounds like it's
bizarrely,
gonna be-
it's a guy I know very well from being the head coach of Reno's in the VMSL, and it's another card I need from the Sounders, Blaise Nkufo. Number 25. It's another one I need, Matt Pickens.
Nice.
If you don't complete the set right now,
One more? You just need one more?
I need one more. Now, we said that it was very fitting, your last card. My last card is equally fitting because, one, it has completed my set, but it was a guy that joined the Whitecaps mid-season. This is like we've staged this, but we haven't. Number 115 from the Philadelphia Union, Jordan Harvey.
Nice.
Goal machine.
take that,
Nice.
Shoppers Drug Mart.
Oh,
That's how you complete a set.
yes.
That's a good callback joke, Steve.
Yeah.
That I don't
Man.
think most people get.
Those stickers were the worst stickers I've ever seen in my life to this day. I
And
will
it's the-
never get over that.
And it's and it's probably the only time my kids enjoyed listening to the podcast. Your reaction to those sticker openings. They actually asked me to listen to it again.
It's
Twice.
also the last time the Whitecaps have done that, I think. Or maybe- did they do it the second? Oh, they might have done it a second season as well. But they
They do
quickly-
they do the Chevron cards. I don't know if they did it this year. I
Yeah,
can't
the
remember, but they
Chevron
did
ones are good because they're free. I'm all
Yeah.
for free stuff. But that's it. We've completed our set. We'll go over what teams we've got in a future episode. But I want to get into the football chat because we've got a lot to deal with. But we're going to kick things off in this part with some Whitecaps chat because it's been all quiet on the Whitecaps front. So you'd think, oh, there's nothing to talk about. Wrong. We always find things to talk about in the off-season. There was no media availability held this week. There was no announcement on what options have been picked up, what ones haven't, any offers that's been made. There was no confirmation of Vanni Sartini's position. Is he the head coach? Are they still searching for someone else? It's been strange that it's been so quiet when a lot of the other teams held their end of season availability. I've been told that it will be this coming week, most likely. And that they were still working on a few things, which is why there haven't been any announcements yet. So to help them along, because we're kind, caring people here at AFTN, we're going to let them know who they should be keeping, who they should be looking to trade or transfer, and who they should just cut free, release into the wild, because it's our annual in, out, on the bubble, keep, trade, release, whatever you want to call it. We're going to delve into that in the first two parts of the show this week. And we're going to start off in part one by looking at the defensive side. But before we get to that, let's look at the head coach. We don't need to go into this too much because we talked about it last week. But Vanni Sartini, 15 games in charge, 7 wins, 5 draws, 3 losses. I'll just do a quick yes or no. He is the man to lead this club forward, Steve, isn't he?
I would say look for definitely explore your options though. I wouldn't just hand him the job, but it's hard not to give him the job at this point. Even though I'm hoping he proves me wrong in my feeling that it could be just like one of those like bumps by a coach that just jumps in there and gives a different approach.
Yeah, I'll just stick to what I said, I think, on the previous podcast, is that I think they are going to bring him back in a full-time gig, but I don't think it's long-term going to be the best for them. I think he'll last a year or two, maybe 2.5, 3 at the most, and then be gone because he'll fizzle out.
Yeah, I think it might be hard to keep his style up. Now, hopefully we're wrong, and hopefully he's just found some magical formula that can keep this going, but I think it's hard, and it's going to be hard to maybe replicate even next season.
But the thing is, the advantage for him is that if they keep this upward trajectory at this point of acquiring players of quality, if they keep this up, or what they've done like with Gold and White and other positions, then maybe he can last a little bit longer. But it all depends on what the acquisition of players are, how much they're able to keep up this talent level.
I'm curious as well just to see how his sometimes weird and wacky team selections can do over the course of a season as well.
A full season, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's done enough, I feel, to at least get a 1-year deal to see where he can take it. I'm surprised they haven't announced it yet. I thought they would have announced it as soon as the season ended, as a kind of feel-good factor for everyone feeling a little bit down that they were one and done after all the buzz and the hype going into the playoffs. Maybe there's some stumbling points over the contract for all we know, and maybe they are still keeping their options open, and I guess we'll find out in the coming week. I would expect some announcement this week, but who knows? So let's kind of look at the players now, and we're going to look defensively in this first part. And we'll split it into goalkeepers, full-backs, and centre-backs. And I'm going to give you some stats when I do this, and they're for regular season and the playoffs. I've kind of lumped a lot of the stats together yet. Yeah, one regular season plus one, I guess we can call it. So how I'm going to do this, for each position, I'm going to give you all the players in that position and what they've done, and then we'll just have a little bit of chat just about how they've performed this year. Would you want them back? What they need to do to improve? Would it be better moving on? Just that kind of general stuff. So we've got 4 goalkeepers to look at. Maxime Crepeau, 28 games played. He allowed 34 goals. Over the regular season, that was a 1.15 goals against average. 97 saves in the regular season, which was about 76% save percentage, which is pretty good. Thomas Hasal played 7 games, 14 goals against, 2 goals against average obviously, 20 saves, 59% save percentage. Evan Newton didn't see any time on the pitch at all, and Isaac Boehmer didn't see any time in MLS but was loaned to Pacific FC on September 9th. Only made 1 appearance for the Purple Ones, which was in that very costly 2-1 home loss to York. I don't think you can pin too much, though, on Boehmer for that loss, but that was him going out there to try and get some playing time or experience, but it's hard when you've got a good guy like Callum Irving in goal for Pacific to get that time. So he only played once. He did get some minutes with the under-23s, and I did see some of those games where one of the games against Reno's Tigers at Swangard, which was one of the games we were commentating on, he didn't cover himself in glory in that. So
he should have taken the penalty against York.
Could have been much worse than the penalty that was taken, to be honest.
Exactly.
So I think we're all in agreement. We keep Max Crepeau, or do either of you want to sell him, cash in when he's high, get some money for him?
Oh no, you keep him. He's your bread and butter at this point. For me, this goalkeeping crew basically should stay very same. The only thing possibly you would change is if you decide to loan Thomas Hasal to another team, maybe in the CPL or somewhere else, and then you want to upgrade Evan Newton to a better backup. That's the only change I would see if that's your plan. I would keep Isaac Boehmer with the club because especially if you have the reserve team. Next year, he can be the starter on that team. So that's where I would see the 3 line up there.
I think you want to keep Maxime Crepeau. The only question is, would Maxime Crepeau want to go and play at a different level somewhere else? And if he wants to, is it valuable to the club to enable that or make that happen? That's a question. The question they really need to ask. But I mean, if you just from a pure on-field thing, yeah, you want him to stay.
Sometimes as a player, over the course of your career, your stock will hit a certain high.
Yeah.
Now, goalkeepers are a bit different because they've got a lot more longevity in the game than others do. A lot of them can play till their late 30s, 40s even. But right now, Max, his stock is sky high with his performances for the Whitecaps, his performances with Canada.
Yeah.
This is, if he harbours a dream of going to play overseas,
this is the time.
Yeah, for me, it feels like this is the time because you're just one bad season away from your stock falling. David Ousted's a good example of that. Stefan Marinovic, a good example of that, really, as well.
Well, I don't know about Marinovic, but David Ousted was much older. But with him, the one thing I wonder is does he feel like it's better to stay where he knows he's going to start as opposed to going to battle for a position in Europe, and then he maybe loses his second spot with the national team because he's on the cusp. You got to think in 2 years, the most,
to be number
or
one.
after, let's say after the 2022 World Cup, you got to think he's in line to be number one for Canada, assuming again he doesn't have major injuries or his form doesn't fall off a cliff, right? So does that weigh on his mind saying I need to stay here and stay at the good level I'm at in order to be in that position when that time comes?
Well, I would say that he's like a potential likely injury away. Like it's a very high chance that Millie Borjan can be injured, and he could be the potential starter of the 2022 World Cup Canada team as well.
Exactly. So does that keep him in Vancouver?
I would say in that case it would keep him in Vancouver, and then if he wants to jump abroad after the World Cup, that's when he wants to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
In terms of the other keepers, I thought, Steve, your comments were interesting. Although I don't think you, unless we don't know the amounts that the contracts are changing from this year to next year, assuming they're all have options or all have guaranteed years or whatever. I don't know that I'd want to invest more in the goalkeeping position if I'm the Vancouver Whitecaps in a salary budget.
I'm not saying that a major upgrade, but I'm saying if there's an upgrade on Evan Newton, then you take that. But I'm not saying you're going to find that. I'm just saying that if Thomas Hasal is a potential for a loan, and if there's a better goalie option as a backup, then you do that. Because obviously you're not going to break the bank for that, for sure.
No,
it's going to be a minor money increase.
But that's the big question: is how many games is Thomas Hasal? Oh, actually, it's both of them. How many games are Thomas Hasal and Isaac Boomer going to get with the MLS Reserve League and League One Ontario? Like these are massive situations that
League One BC.
Sorry, League One BC. Yeah,
I was like, why? Who's going to Ontario?
League One Ontario. League One BC. That's the massive question. Like, how much time is going to be available to those two keepers in those two settings?
Yeah.
What are they allowed to do and not allowed to do, and all that kind of stuff? Because if, for example, if like a Whitecaps first team player can't play in League One BC because of contracts and levels and whatever, then it might be best to like loan Bomer to that team like for the whole season, assuming that Hasal is going to play every reserve game or whatever. But here's the thing: we've said this many times. They need to be playing at this age, both of them, and they're both not going to be playing for the first team. And so
that's why
they need to find a place to play.
And that's why I would actually like to see Hasal loaned out to like a team in a competition, not just a reserve. I want to see him at a CPL, at a USL 1 or whatever the hell they call him down there.
So, where he's a starter.
Which is where I could see Hasal being, like you said, Hasal being on loan as a starter in CPL, Bomer being on, let's say, on loan to the League One BC side, and then another residency keeper being the third keeper, if you don't want to spend more money.
Yeah, I totally agree. For me, Hasal has to go out on loan. He's a good keeper. There's still a lot of shortcomings in his game, and you're only going to get that by being properly tested in competitive games.
And the thing is, we saw how good he was 2 years ago when he was getting regular games.
Yeah.
When he's getting these as a backup, he's not going to progress because he's just coming in cold. He needs to play every game and not just play a spot game here and there or cover Kripo when he's with the national team.
I think he had one clean sheet over the course of the season. I think Max had 6. There were some games where he didn't cover himself in glory, but you're young. That's going to happen. So loan him out, but he has to be starting. I know you can't ever guarantee that, but he's got to be at least in the frame to be a starter. I initially had Isaac Bomer getting loaned out as well, but I had completely forgotten the fact there was this reserve league, so that's the ideal time for that. Now, maybe Hasal would be happy to be in the reserve league. I like Evan Newton as a keeper, and he is a solid backup, and I'm totally fine with him being the backup.
I'm just not familiar.
If he's happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm just not familiar with Evan Newton, so I can't make a call.
No, he was really good in USL, and he won Keeper of the Year.
I'll take your word for that.
He was good in USL. He seems like a quality fellow. Michael, I would agree with Steve's comment in terms of either for Hasal, especially, or maybe even Bomer, but the reserve league not being competitive in terms of no one cares about the standings is a small concern for me.
Yeah. Also, the last I spoke about it to somebody, which was a couple of months ago now, they still hadn't got any actual details as what was happening. But I mean, when we do these rest of the players, that is something as well to kind of bear in mind, which I hadn't when I was initially writing some of this down. So let's get into the back line now, and we're going to look at the full-backs. Altogether, there's 13 defenders on the roster, but 3 of them were loaned out. One was not officially on the roster, but he was signed. Now, I mentioned the team had 7 clean sheets, and when I was going through these stats, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read through the rundown or not. So if you have, don't spoil this question if you know the answer. But there was 2 players that played in every single game that we had a clean sheet. And I was surprised when I saw who they were.
I honestly wouldn't know.
One of them, I'm not.
If it's a surprise, then it could be either like Jake or Andy Rose.
It was both of them.
Oh, was it both of them? That's the real reason I would have guessed that those were to the 2, because you said it was a surprise. If you asked me without that part, I would have probably guessed somebody else.
I mean, we'll get to Andy in the next bit when we look at centre backs, but like for full backs, I've stuck 5 in here.
I disagree with you that putting Jake in here is as a fullback, because I don't think he's going to play fullback if he does.
I know, but I just did that because it's his normal position. I mean, technically, we're not playing with fullbacks because we're playing with wing backs. If you want to,
yeah, exactly.
But I've lumped 5 in here. So okay. Javane Brown, 26 appearances, 19 of them starts. When he was on the pitch, 24 goals were allowed in, and he was only in the pitch for 1 clean sheet. He was second on the team with 44 something. I've written appearances, but that is not right. It's either tackles or interceptions, so I don't know what I was meant to write down here. He didn't get any goals, but he did contribute 5 assists. Bruno Gaspar played in 18 games, which is actually more than I had in my head that he'd played, but a lot of them were under Vanny towards the end. He only had 12 starts in that time. No clean sheets with him on the pitch, 15 goals allowed. He scored 1 goal and he had 1 assist. To bring him back, it's likely to cost 1.75 million to buy him from Sporting under the current terms of the deal. So we'll come to that. Marcus Coutinho, late addition, 5 appearances, including 1 in the playoffs, 2 starts, 79 minutes, 7 goals allowed when he was on the pitch. No clean sheets. Christian Gutierrez, 19 games played, starting 17 of them. He allowed 25 goals when he was on the pitch. No goals scored, 3 assists, 36 interceptions was his key stat. And Jake Nerwinski, 26 games played, started 20 of them, allowed 26 goals when he was on the pitch, played in every single game that we had a clean sheet. He scored once, didn't contribute any assists, but did have 26 interceptions.
All right, Michael, can I just verify this stat? Marcus Godinho played in 79 minutes and there were 7 goals scored while he was on the pitchers in the games.
That was the games that he played in.
I was going to say that's a horrendous record.
Well, I'm saying that, but I don't know because the stats actually has goals against 7. So yeah, I don't know how they measure that.
That would be crazy if that was the case.
Every
7 goals.
3 of those was against Sporting Kansas City in the playoffs, though.
Oh, okay.
So
it must be while he was on the pitch then.
Yeah, it must be. So let's. I mean, some of them I think are pretty obvious for keeping Javane Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, Javane Brown and Christian Gutierrez are obvious.
Yeah, I mean they're the obvious ones for me. One thing that I will say is I'm a bit disappointed at the goals and assists contributed by these guys because I like an attacking fullback or an attacking wingback, and I expect a little bit more contribution from them. And you look at Jake, who I think has had a good season. 1 goal and no assists. Admittedly, he was playing more, I guess, as a centre-back towards the end of it, but he seems to have gone backwards in terms of contributing to the team in that regard.
But that's partly what I think both MDS and Vanny kind of said they feel about him, that he's not the attacking. He can't be in that position and be attacking and be responsible for defending.
Yeah, he's not capable of being both ways.
Yeah,
he's got to be one or the other.
So they focused him. I think if you wanted to, Michael, instead of playing him at a center back, at either a back 2 or a back 3, the other option was to say, let's make him a right winger. But that doesn't work in this team because they weren't playing wingers and because they have way better options than him.
Yeah,
and they needed some center back help, and so it kind of worked out for him.
So do you look at this now, Steve, then, under Vanny's 3 at the back formation, do you look at Jake now as basically a centre back?
If he were to stay, then he's essentially a fullback converted into center back.
Yeah.
And a lot of 3 at the backs, they always play like one guy who's like kind of a fullback. So one of those 3 players is typically a fullback, and 2 are more stayed as center back. So for me, he's basically a fullback. Him, I would essentially see if I'd probably keep him, but he would not be like a regular starter. He'd be like a depth player. I
believe he's Steve's poor man, Alistair Johnson.
Yeah, he is. He's a very poor man's Alistair Johnson, because Alistair Johnson plays really well at that position where Jake is decent at this point.
I think this is the first season for a few seasons that I've not had him on the trading block. I actually want to keep him.
I honestly,
if we can get an improvement, but with a trade, I would take an upgrade.
And it has to be a domestic player coming back. Like if you were, like honestly, if you were to say send Jake Nowitzki, I don't know, 750 GAM and something else for Alistair Johnson, I do that in a second.
Bite your hand off.
Yeah,
but I don't know if Nashville would at that point. I don't know how much it would cost.
Probably not, since we're playing them next season.
Michael, I disagree.
I don't think you make a decision on that.
No, I know.
No, but for me, Michael, I disagree. He's not a keep for me. He is a trade.
Oh,
because I think you can get something for him because he's shown to be versatile in a different way than you had expected before.
He's on a high ticket though as well, which is another thing to get off your books. But it's like, who would then take him? But
yeah,
I think for
me, he's absolutely trade.
If you were to trade him, you'd have to bring back at least an international spot as well from a team you trade him to. Like, you need international spots for keeping a lot of the other players. Last 2 I would talk about is Bruno Gaspar. I don't think there's a way you could keep him at all, even if you get him on a free. Him taking up an international spot at the fullback position is not worth it. Marcus Godinho, I'd actually keep as a number 5 or 6 fullback. I think you're going to be carrying 5-6 fullbacks potentially now that you're not carrying wingers. So
yeah, it's an interesting one.
So you're gonna have to have somebody on a low ticket domestic player at the bottom. The 2 backups I would get for Jermaine Brown and Christian Gutierrez, 2 players I would suggest at this point. I know we'll talk about other players down the road, but for this part, Raheem Edwards, a Canadian player, and I would also bring in I always forget how to pronounce Mo Farsi from Calgary.
Oh, yes.
Calgary.
Yeah,
I would
he's
bring
now
him
a free
in.
agent.
So I would bring those 2 guys in as backups to Jermaine Brown and Christian Gutierrez, with them ability to compete with them.
Did you say Abzi and Farsi?
I said
no, Raheem
Farsi
Edwards.
and Raheem Edwards.
Oh yeah.
So I bring them as backups, and then Gaspar's out. Godinho stays as a really low depth player, like a 5th player, if you're not able to bring in a Cadbury player.
Yeah, for me, Gaspar, there's no way I would pay 1.75 million for him.
I wouldn't waste an international spot on him.
I would, only way I would receive him back in the team, Michael, I think they should receive him back in the team, is on a new loan.
Yeah, because I guess they could say, look, things didn't work out this year with injury. The other option is they don't take it, Sporting release him, and then they pick him up free or cheap or something like that, but I don't know that might happen. I genuinely would like to see him back because I think he's excellent when he's fit. And I really,
my concern is I don't know how fit he's going to be.
Yeah, you don't agree with that, Zach.
Well, no, he made some significant defensive errors. Again, he's good going forward at times, but
yeah, see, I like his attacking side, but I guess you do need a defensive side as well.
I just feel like you can't waste international spots on the wide.
I get that too. I mean, with Godinho, I'm all for letting him go, but if you could bring someone like Mo Farsi in, definitely I'd replace Godinho with Farsi.
I want to know who brought in Marcus Godinho. Like who's responsible
They
for that
they
move?
needed
I
depth.
don't think
They had
there's
so-
MDS.
the problem is they had so many injuries and there was just no options, and that's why they brought him in. They were tired of probably putting out like center backs
Metcalf?
in that
Yeah, that's
position.
true. I guess it's better than playing Metcalf at right wing back. But
Oh, yeah.
And bringing Godinho also allowed Jake to play center back because they were so short at center back too. So it's really a desperation move. And again, for me, he's on the bubble for me because if you have a better option in the homegrown level, I bring that person in or somebody else if you can.
Yeah, I'd say he's on the bubble depending on if you can get a good upgrade for a good price. And for me, I guess Gaspar is on the bubble if we can get a better deal than 1.75. That's a lot to pay out for a guy that's been injured. And as we know from Eric Godoy, who will now come to in terms of centre-backs, you can't pay all that money and have a really good talent that isn't going to be able to go. And I know it can happen to any player, injuries happen. But I mean, let's look at the centre-backs now. And what I've done here, we've got a couple of guys who are out on loan and not on the roster. So let's quickly look at them first. So Jasser Kamiri, he's 24 now. The Tunisian in March was sent out on loan to USL side San Antonio for the season. He had a shaky start there. I watched some of the early games and he did not look good. But he slowly found his feet. He was a bit up and down, some mixed performances. 19 appearances overall, but played in all 3 of their playoff games. He scored 1 goal and he also scored in a friendly as well against one of the Mexican teams. For me though, you cut it, you've got to let him go.
I think they're going to get rid of him because he was an MDS project player. Yeah. MDS saw some great upside in him and was hoping that he would be able to like just polish him off and make him the final product, the final what he needed to finish his development. It didn't work, and I think the Vancouver Whitecaps are not going to want to move forward with Jasser Kamiri.
Yeah, and for me, the fact that if you're having up and down season in USL San Antonio, I don't trust him to play in MLS with Vancouver.
No, I agree. Then we've got 2 homegrowns that were loaned out in the second half of the season. Gianfranco Fascineri was loaned to USL side San Diego Loyal in August. He only made 6 appearances. He's still just 19. He's got good experience with Canada. Matteo Capagna, 17. Loaned to York United in the CPL on August 5th. Made 5 appearances though, just 3 as a starter. Now his older brother Christian is someone that the Caps think highly of as well and could be signed, so you could have both the Capagna brothers on the team. I would loan them out unless there's a good chance that they're going to get serious minutes in this reserve team. Because then you want to keep them close at hand, and if they do well, you've got them to bring into the first team.
I would, if possible, loan one out. The one I would loan out was probably Fascineri, just because he hasn't played very much this year with anybody, and even the last couple of years. I would definitely loan him out, but loan him out to somebody where you know he's going to play. Mm-hmm. And Capagna, he would be ideal in the reserve league this year, and see. But if it doesn't really work out, then probably loan him out halfway through the year.
The problem with Fascineri is this is his second loan spell where he has not played.
Yes.
And my understanding is that, his loan options this time around were limited. And I think after his time in San Diego, they're going to be even more limited. So finding a place for him to go on loan where he's going to play, Steve, I think is going to be
that's going to be tough.
Seemingly becoming more and more difficult.
So I mean, he might have to stay really to play in the reserve league then. But then
that might be his only option.
The concern I have with this is these guys then take up roster spots, and if the genuine feeling is, look, they're not going to be good enough to play MLS right now, or they're going to be dangerous, risk to put into play MLS just now, I'd rather they were loaned out and free up a roster spot. That's the quandary you've got. But the advantage of not loaning them out is you've got them close at hand. You can monitor them. You can play them in this reserve league in the under-23 team. And then if they do excel, it's like the old UK system of you do well with the academy and then you'll bring in. Now, these guys are obviously signed, but you know what I mean. If they do well at that level, it's like, hey, let's give them a chance in this game or stick them on the bench or something. The other loanee, which I didn't lump in with that was Derek Cornelius, because he's on an 18-month loan to the Greek side, Panettilikis, and that's to the end of next year. So he's not coming back. So there's no point.
Well, for him, like I would even contemplate bringing him back if Vanny thinks he would fit their system. But if he doesn't fit their system, then I would say try to sell him and try to break the loan and sell him somewhere else if somebody else is interested in him and get him off the books.
I mean, he's continuing to be called in for Canada, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm pretty sure he's loving his time over there as well. And you're in a great country, and a football-loving country as well.
Yeah, he's someone that I don't think Vancouver can get rid of for nothing.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, sell him off if you can find him a spot. But even though I think his loan is still 2022, I think he signed an extension past that.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I heard that
he
somewhere.
I believe you're right.
He did, yeah. So let's look at the 4 actual centre-backs, which in itself is quite scary that you're just talking about 4. When in past years, Kyle Robinson was always like, I like to have a minimum of 5 centre-backs on my roster. And we're looking at 4.
Yeah, you include.
Yeah, I know.
And you're playing with 3.
Yeah.
Not 2.
So we've got Eric Godoy. Only 18 appearances in an injury-racked season, 15 of them starts. When he was on the pitch, or in the games that he played in, 28 goals allowed. No clean sheets with Godoy on the pitch, which was a big surprise to me, because I feel he's our best centre-back. Second best in the team in headed duels, that's one of his stats. He won 9 tackles, he had 12 interceptions.
How many goals? He had 1 or 2 goals? Just the 1?
Oh, yeah, 1 goal. I didn't write that down, but it was 1 goal he had. Florian Ljungwirth joined, obviously, mid-season. 15 games played, 13 starts, 1 clean sheet just with Flo on the pitch. When he was on the pitch, 18 goals were given up. He had 16 interceptions, so more than Godoy in less games. We've already picked his option up for 2022, so we know he's back. He's a keeper. Don't need to delve too much into Flo. Andy Rose. Now, this was my surprise. He's much maligned, and we talked about it. I think he's done well when he's been on it. And the fact that all 7 clean sheets this season featured Andy Rose on the pitch, I think kind of says a lot about what he brought to the team. 20 games played. He allowed 22 goals when he was on the pitch. The 7 clean sheets. 14 interceptions, but he's a free agent now. So he's obviously coaching in the academy. Do you want to offer him a new deal, maybe less on the playing side, but upping it on the academy side? Or do you let him go and explore options and maybe move on, but losing one of your most experienced players from the squad in the process?
It's got to be a family reunion, doesn't it? You got to complete the family reunion.
Out east?
Yeah.
What do you think, Steve? Do you want Andy Rose back next year, really?
Oh, I think
do.
they need to. I don't. I think they need to move on. Or I feel like there's better options out there. It might not be easy to find, but I feel there are better options.
Ranko, 27 games played, starting 22 of them. He had 1 goal, no assists, 5 clean sheets when he was on the pitch, 22 goals against when he was playing, 29 interceptions, 18 tackles won. So ultimately, I guess if we're looking at, we know that Flo's back. We've discussed Andy, we've discussed Jake. So Eric Godoy, Ranko Veselinovic. Steve, do you keep both? Do you cut ties with at least one of them?
I keep Ranko for sure if it's feasible. I don't know what his contract status is at right now, but I keep Ranko for sure. Eric Godoy is basically on the bubble for me if they find a better option, and if they're able to sell and Eric Godoy off or move him on, then I definitely do that. I don't know if I invest in a designated player role at center back, but I do a high TAM player for sure.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions to you guys. It's like, realistically, we're going to have 2 designated player spots open, I imagine, without spoiling what we think is going to happen with Cava. But we've definitely got 1, and it's like, do you use that spot on a defender, Zach? And if you do, surely it would have to be as a centre back.
Yeah, I think that's an important question. I want to add one piece to this conversation, because you've been hyping up this whole clean sheet thing for
I'm
for
not
Andy
hyping
Rose
it
and
up.
Jake.
I'm just mentioning it.
No, okay, but let's give it some more context,
Yes,
right?
I want Andy
Two-
back, and I just want folk to realise that when he's played, the
No,
team's done well.
but the context of those clean sheets is two of them are against Houston Dynamo, two of them are against San Jose, one of them was against Montreal, one of the games was against Dallas, and I can't. Oh, no, that's San Jose. I can't find the other one.
So you're basically saying crap teams.
They're against crap teams, and they're also three of them were goalless draws. So it was like the team was like just doing what they could to. Oh, the other one was against Portland at the beginning of the season. They were
So
open,
all crap teams.
Yeah. So I mean, they weren't. To me, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting there, but I would say that bringing in a designated player center back is definitely, I think, something that Axel and the Vancouver Whitecaps should highly evaluate, depending, like you said, on how they're structuring other things within the roster. And just to clarify, when I say designated player, I mean someone who's making higher than the TAM threshold. So not just a Kendall Lawson TAM player. I mean like a real designated player who's going to do the things that you're talking about, Michael, whether it be obviously a defensive stalwart, but also like leading the team from the back, commanding things from the back, scoring more goals than we've seen out of this collection of players, and really, I think just raising the whole level of the whole team.
We spoke about Eric last week. Ranko, I think, definitely back.
Yep.
If you're looking at a back three and you're bringing in a designated player centre back, for example, you have to think Florian is going to be a regular starter as well. So that only leaves one more spot for Ranko and possibly Godoy to battle out. As I said last week, if Godoy can stay healthy, and there's never a guarantee, I want him in because I think he's our best defender. But then you do look at goals given up when players have been on the pitch, and it's not just all in the defence.
Yeah.
I mean, we've discussed that a lot over the last couple of years. But my brain tells me, we weren't as good when Ranko was in the team. We're better with Eric in the team. Then you look at some of the stats, and it's like, actually, when Ranko was playing, we were pretty good defensively. So maybe you're looking at a Florian Ranko new centre-back. I think we have to strengthen the defence.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing about Andy Rose, one thing I'm more say is that you can't have too many older center backs at the back. And now if you're deciding to keep with Florian Youngworth, you can't keep both of them. And that's the problem there.
Yeah.
You need to get younger somewhere. And that's where I would go with Andy Rose. He's over the last 2-3 years, his abilities are diminishing. And one of these years is going to be a complete drop off, and you don't want it. You want to get out before that happens, where he's not useful at all, even off the bench.
I mean, maybe he'll decide to hang his boots up and go full time into coaching. You never know. Because I guess if Vanny gets the head coaching job, the under 23 coach / reserve team coach is up for grabs. So
yeah, that's true.
You never know.
Yeah, for me, Michael, actually, Youngworth isn't in the starting back three. It's designated player, Godoy and Ranko, and then obviously Youngworth is going to be filling in because you're going to have injury, you're going to have suspension or whatever. That's how I would look at it. Plus, I would also include Javane Brown in that mix as well.
Yeah, we've never seen him play really as his centre back, which is primarily what he was. He seems to be talking about Jake being converted to a centre back. He's been more converted to a wing back.
Yeah, I think he would do really, really well there.
Yeah,
I do too.
That's a very good point. Last thing from me on this: if we do add a designated player centre back, I know we don't want the old guys in, Steve, but I think it has to be like mid to late 20s with a bit of scope to be here for like 4 or 5 years. But you want that experience because we are young back there as well.
Late 20s is fine for center back because that's when they're kind of reached their prime and they have quite a few years ahead. They're a late development team. My thing about this, if you bring a DP center back, I don't think you could keep Eric Godoy just for salary wise.
No,
it just doesn't work.
Probably not
spending that much money on the back.
That's a valid part of the conversation that would need to be evaluated. Steve, I agree with you.
It's going to be an interesting off-season when it comes to the defence side. We're going to turn our attention though now to the midfield and the attack, and we will be back with that after this.
Hi, I'm Maxime Crépeau from the Vancouver Whitecaps, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
The sun ain't out of reach. I might take you on down to the beach, right where you belong. Head in the sand, I translated and you still don't understand. No, there ain't no limits. I started this, I'ma finish. The gods that you surrendered to are figures of fiction. Oh, baby, you got it wrong. I've been right all along. One more time, here we go. You say stop, I say hell no.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's our Artist of the Month here at AFTN for November. From New Jersey, xylophone punk band Crazy in the Brains, with the opening track from their 2018 album, Into the Ugly. That was a song called Hell No, which is possibly what they might be looking at in the Whitecaps' point of view when they look at who they want to bring back. Do you want to bring this guy back? Hell no! I'm sure that isn't the case. They love everyone in the Whitecaps organisation. So we're going to continue our chat though as to who we might keep and who we might let go, or who knows what we might want to do with them in the midfield and the forward line in this part. And we're going to start with the midfielders, and I've split the midfielders into the seniors and the young homegrown up-and-comers. So Russell Tybert, as a homegrown, is going to be in the seniors because he's the old boy now. So let's start off with the senior midfielders. And for this, I've got us down to 6, the way that I've done this and how I split things between midfield and forwards. So the 6 midfielders I'm looking at. Caio Alexandre, missing since August after having surgery for a metatarsal fracture. Not seen the best of him yet at the Whitecaps, and the jury's still out, I think, on him, in my opinion. We need to see him in a full season to see what he can be to this team. He had some flashes this season. Few disappointments for me this season as well. He made 15 appearances altogether, 11 of them starts. No goals, just 1 assist. Janio Bikel, 33 games played, joint leader on the team for matches played. 26 games started, 1 goal scored, 1 assist, 3rd in the team with 24 tackles. Ryan Gauld, 19 games played after joining in July, 14 games started, 4 goals, 6 assists, team leading 40 key passes, and 19 shots on goal altogether. Leo Owusu, 25 games played, 15 starts, no goals, no assists. Russell Tybert, 34 games played, 30 games started, 1 goal, 2 assists, 4th on the team for key passes, which might surprise people, with 27. And Pedro Vite, the 19-year-old Ecuadorian who joined at the start of August, but we never saw him. I haven't included him in the up-and-comers because we know he's a new addition and he's going to be here. So, I mean, he's definitely back. We know that for sure. Ryan Gauld, we know he's definitely back. Russell Tybert, I imagine we all assume that Russell's back. Of all his seasons of late, this is the one season that's probably guaranteed that he's coming back. But I will say that when you've got Russell Tybert playing in 34-year games and starting 30 of them in the midfield, that maybe does say some things about how poor the midfield was this year, as does looking at the goals and assists that came from that midfield, because it's scarily low.
Yeah, but the problem there is that the the midfield never moved forward with there until Ryan Gold got there. That's
Yeah.
when they started getting even the goals and assists you'll see from the players like Russell Tybert, anybody else who got them. It basically came when Ryan Gold showed up, and that's when the other part of the midfield were. So I'd like to see this whoever plays behind Ryan Gold have an off season with them and kind of work together and see how much that can improve those guys. When we're looking at keeping. We talked about Kyle Alexander before. I think he had the problem, a combination of being his first year and dealing with injuries and not being in the city that he signed for. Triple issues with there. So from him, he, like you said, the flashes I saw from him, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he has. And I do have him penciled in as a starter next year.
Yeah, I think he's been brought here to be a starter, and I'd be amazed if he doesn't. If he isn't one. So I guess the question marks then are Janio Bikel, Leo Owusu. Do you bring both of them back, Steve?
The problem there for me, again, it's nothing to do with the players. It's all about the international spots. Are they going to upgrade one of those we can bring in another starter, and that's where you can't keep both of them? Or I don't even know if you keep both of them, even if you don't bring anybody in. For me, Owusu seems to have, and he played more once Gold came in there. He seems to have more of a chemistry with Gold. Like, even if you see some interviews with the Gold, he always seems to mention Owusu a lot. So I don't know. There seems to be some off the pitch chemistry, and maybe it translates on. Plus, Owusu is, I think, 2 to 3 years younger than Bikel, if I'm not mistaken. Bikel is valuable because of the fact that he is a harder tackler and he can play the right back spot or right wing back spot. So it's value there. So both of those two for me are on the bubble, but Tybert, Vite, Gold, and Alexandre are definitely keeps.
Yeah, I'm torn with Bikel and Owusu, Zach. I mean, what's your thoughts on the two of them?
Yeah, I mean, I agree on Vite. I agree Russell's not going anywhere. Ryan Gold's obviously not going anywhere. Alexandre, I think, the biggest question the jury has is what will the new head coach or what will Vanni Sartini do with him? That's because we never got to see any of that. When it comes to Bikel and Owusu, I think that they've been like fine MLS players for the level that the Vancouver Whitecaps are at. But if they want to show ambition and they want to go on, then the question is, are they going to get better starters? Because Steve's asked a valid question: is you keep internationals who are going to maybe be bench players or spot starters or fill in kind of players, right? Like, so Russell Tybert, I think most people are happy to have him on the team. There are some people are super happy to have him on the team, but I think most people would say, he shouldn't be playing. He shouldn't be starting 30 games if they're going to have ambition to be further up the table than they were, right? So, I
know some of it was needs must because there was a lot of injuries over the year. But,
Alexander Caio would have eaten up a number of those starts, a number of those games had he not been injured.
And Owusu was missing a lot of the season too.
Yeah. So they could stick with that. I just don't know if sticking with that plus the combination of Gold getting to play with Caio and what if that's enough. For me, the Tybert and a player we'll talk about in a second here are your first two options off the bench. Alexandre is a starter, and I would rather bring in a new starter, like Zach said, upgrade over Bikel and Owusu instead of those two. I probably on a personal level like Owusu more, but I think Bikel offers more because he can play like wide on the right side and play right back or right wing back or whatever. So on that basis alone, if this was like a team on FIFA or whatever, I'd probably want to keep Bikel over Owusu.
Yeah, I think Owusu is the better player of the two, but I think Bikel in our team offers more. Because if you're looking at 3-4-2-1 or 3-4-1-2, however Vanni or whoever decides to go with next season, you're looking at two central midfield positions. And if Alexandre's taking up one of them, it's like, who do you want in beside him? I think Owusu and him might be a little bit chalk and cheese. But sometimes you need that, I guess.
Yes. But the hard part is that what if they bring in a different coach and he has a totally different approach? That totally messes all of that up. But I agree that it was interesting to have them both, I think, at the same time and see what happened. It was to me, it was surprising at the end of the year that Vanny Hart didn't really start Bikel much. I found that really surprising.
Leo was his guy.
Well, but even Bikel didn't get any of those wide right spots at all either, which I found a little bit surprising.
If they both went, I'd be pretty nonplussed if we kept him. It's not the most exciting. I think there's better options out there. I'd like that position upgraded, and I think for us to take the next step, I think we need to. But of course, you then have to factor into the mix the young homegrowns. And there's 5 of them here, but 2 of them are on long-term loan, so we can rule those out. So Simon Colline, he is still a Whitecap. Folk may have forgotten his name. But he's been loaned to PSV Eindhoven under-21s. He was previously with Italian side Spal's under-19 team. He seems to be impressing in Holland. He's there till June. He's been playing, according to Transfer Market, as a centre-forward. So that's quite an interesting one.
Maybe he got a growth spurt or something like that.
But the feedback is he's doing well, and there's a good chance he could be signed over there. Damione Pisil as well, on loan to Venezia under-19s till July. He scored 5 goals in 9 games. I was looking on Transfer Market. And he's a defensive midfielder, usually, so whatever they've done to unleash him, he's having a cracking little season over there.
I have a lot of time for Damiano, and I hope things go well for him, whether it's on loan or coming back to Vancouver.
I mean, well, he's in a beautiful city. He's in one of my favourite cities in the world. I've been lucky enough to go to Venice twice in my life, and I love it. And never seen a game there. I'd love him to join the team so I can go and watch him play. That would be fantastic. So we can rule those guys out the equation. They're not coming back anytime soon, if at all. So we're looking at 3 homegrowns. And again, I might want to loan some of these guys out if it was a season like this season, but we do have the reserve league and the under-23 team that's going to be playing in that now, so I don't see these guys going anywhere. But you're looking at Michael Baldissimo, 21 appearances, 12 starts, no goals, no assists, just 1 shot on goal, which stuns me because of what we've seen Baldy do in the past, and think of that goal he got the season before and stuff. Cameron Habidullah, 3 sub-appearances, just 34 minutes, still finding his feet in the team. I've seen him up and down at under-23 level, so he still needs a lot of work, but you only get that by getting some serious games, and the reserve league's clearly made for a guy like Cam. I was briefly chatting to him at a VMSL game a couple of weeks ago because he was there watching his brother play, who's left the Whitecaps Academy now and is playing with Inter in the VMSL and doing very well with them as well, it has to be said. And then Patrick Metcalf, 13 appearances in a variety of weird and wacky positions, 4 starts. Just overall thoughts on those guys, Zach.
I feel so bad for Metcalf. I mean, the positions he was put in by the coaches, I think, did not serve him well.
He wasn't set out to succeed, you can almost say.
Exactly. Didn't serve the team well. And he was the scapegoat for a number of goals. He made mistakes for a number of goals, partly because he was playing in positions that he doesn't usually play on, which I felt was so unfair to him. And it was beyond that, because some of the time you looked on the bench and you're like, there's a guy on the bench who could play that position. So a lot of times, some of the times it just didn't make sense. But so I feel really bad for him. I agree with you, Michael. I hope he can get a loan somewhere where he can play in central midfield and continue to grow and develop as a player. That's my hope for Metcalf. Same with Cam. Yeah, Cam needs to play. He always has an online presence of Warriors who are always responding to the Whitecaps posts and asking for him to play. So hopefully he gets to go and play somewhere. And then
he is a good talent.
Yes, totally. Baldissimo, I think he's got. I think it will be interesting to see if he can stay fit.
I think we may have said that for this year, but next year definitely is make or break for me for Baldy here.
I don't remember Baldy being injured too much 2 years ago, but not this year. Definitely his injury bugs. But also, I feel he kind of also fell under the whole, those 2 center backs, 2 central midfielders don't attack too much and protect your center back line at the beginning. And I don't think he was able to, because the year before he was getting forward and he even scored a fantastic goal at BC Place. So
I mean, I was stunned when I looked and it was like one shot on goal, and I double checked it, and it's like, wow. But I mean, he again falls into this, as you were just saying. It's like another midfielder that hasn't contributed in terms of goals and assists over the course of the year from a number of appearances. And we need a bit more. We need him to take that next step. And I don't know that he gets as many opportunities next year, to be honest.
Yeah, so for me, I have basically Alexandre, like I said, just wrap up. As one of the starting central midfielders, they should bring in a different guy, like a upgrade at the other spot, and then Tybert and Baldissimo are your first options off the bench, and then you bring in a couple of depth players, domestic players. At Cam, you got Gold, Avite, and Habibullah, and put Habibullah in the reserve league to get him some minutes there, but have him as an option for sure near the club.
That sounds pretty good. The way that the Whitecaps play, it's very fluid, and there's a number of players that can play in different positions. Defenders can play in the midfield, midfielders can play up front, forwards can drop back into the midfield. It's all over the place, really.
Fluid.
So we'll finish this bit and finish our look at the players by looking at the forwards. So for the forwards, I've got these down as Lucas Cavallini, 22 games played, 14 starts, 3 goals, 1 assists, 14 shots on goal, 8 key passes, 6 yellow cards, team leading. Well done, Cava. Diber Caicedo, 34 games played, 24 games started, 5 goals, 7 assists. He led the team in assists, 18 shots on goal, 28 key passes, which was third in the team. Christian Dahomey, 34 games played, 32 games started, 11 goals, second on the team, 5 assists, 23 shots on goal, 35 key passes, and basically he's like second on the team in a lot of things behind Ryan Gauld and those kind of things. Ryan Raposo, 21 games played, 3 starts, no goals, 2 assists, 2 shots on goals. Crazy low number for a guy that's playing in a forward position. To St. Ricketts, 14 games played, which I was like, Toss played in 14 games? That was like, I just don't remember him playing in that much at all, I've got to say. I know some of them were just throwaway minutes here and there, but no goals, no assists, no shots on goal, and he's now a free agent. Obviously, he's been working hard in the front office as well, because he's looking at the next step of his career. And then Brian White, 28 games played, 24 games started, team leading 12 goals, 5 assists, 24 shots on goals, which also leads the team, and he only joined halfway through the season, and 10 key passes. So that's the first ones we're going to talk about. So Brian White, no brainer, he's coming back. We'll come to him shortly. Let's look at Tosaint Ricketts, a free agent. Obviously, been a bit entrenched, learning the business side of things.
Yeah.
We know what he can do, but he didn't really get too many chances this year. And when he was on the pitch, he didn't do anything. I don't know that you bring him back, to be honest.
I don't know if he's going to come back as a player anywhere, though. That's the thing. I think this might be his last year. Even if it isn't, I honestly, if he does want to come back, I would kind of bring him back as a very deep depth player, like number 5 or number 6 at the striker position.
If it's a low salary,
it's a low salary.
You know what you can get from him.
And he could be an intern in the front office as well at the same time. Probably the highest paid intern in the front office. But yeah, that's the only way I bring him. Ryan Raposo. Obviously, definitely Brian White coming back. Ryan Raposo, he's on the bubble for me. I have the most bubbles at the forward position. Ryan Raposo, same thing here. If he's willing to come back, and you keep him as like a number 5, number 6 forward, I have no problem bringing him back then. Because you're going to need depth, and you can't bring in international players. It's hard to find Americans that want to come up to Vancouver to play. Unless you can find a CPL player in that position too. That's a possibility as well.
I think there's better CPL players out there, Zach, than Ryan Raposo.
And Raposo might need to go somewhere in order to find his game.
That's not knocking Ryan. I was excited by what he could offer, but for me, he's just never hit those heights. And I think his time at the Whitecaps is done. He just needs to go on, as Steve just said there. Maybe go and find his feet, maybe in the CPL, then you can come back to MLS in a couple of years. He's got to play regularly now. He's not going to do that here, and I do think there's better Canadian players out there.
Yeah, and I feel really bad for him because I think he's been he's a good player.
Yeah, like Zach said before, I think Raposo's a Metcalf kind of thing where he's not been put in good positions at all.
Yeah, I feel bad for him, but yeah, I think he needs to go somewhere where he's going to play a lot more, and he could go to a place like CPL and maybe dominate might be a strong word, but he might be able to, better show his abilities.
He could go to a team like York and have a big impact there.
For sure.
Oh.
The two Colombians, obviously, it's a no-brainer. They're coming back.
I'm not sure about that though. I don't know if both can come back because if you want to bring in a top striker and you have Brian White, do these guys want to come back as bench players? Because are they going to come as wingbacks?
Well, that's the thing, because they do play all over the place, and we saw Dahomey kind of play back as a wing back, but not. But
does he want
great
to?
Defensively?
Exactly, and does he want to play? That's the thing with these guys. One of them, I think Casido. I think you bring back Casido. Dahomey might want to go somewhere else where he plays at a normal position, because it's not good for his career to be stuck in a position where you're playing in spots where you're not comfortable playing. If he plays as a striker, maybe he's good there, but he was the most effective when he was playing at the wing.
Yeah, don't forget though the fact that Dahomey and his family love life in Vancouver, so that's going to play a lot into things.
That plays
a
big factor for sure. And I'm just saying that, and it would be great to have them on the bench because that's great options off the bench and late in the games and kind of like that. But for me, it's hard to, and you're not going to always have White at full. Like we talked about last week, if White scores 12 goals over the thing, that means he's not going to start every game. He's not going to be capable of starting every game and keep that level up. So there will be games where White is on the bench and Casido starts or the only starts. So it all depends on that. It's very kind of where you see the team going forward next year.
I mean, I see a DP striker coming in, and then that DP striker will play, if we're playing two up front, with White. If White's not doing it, you play Dahomey. If he's not doing it, you play Caicedo. You'd rotate them until you find whatever works. And if the guys are happy to be bench players, get the odd start here and there, great. But I think they're too talented to let go.
You need to keep both of those guys, even if they don't necessarily totally fit Vanny's system or the future coach's system. But yeah, I think you're right. Cava out, a DP striker in, Toss and Raposo gone, and I think you are making steps forward.
Cava then. We won't go into all this again because we spoke about a lot of it last week. But do you see any way that Cava is here next season?
They don't get the money they want. They don't get the offer, the deal they want,
or they don't have an option to replace him either. If they can't find somebody to bring in, that's another thing too.
Would you let him go before you had an option, before you had a replacement lined up, or do you want to get that replacement lined up and then you can't get rid of him?
No, but if they get a good offer, then I have no problem with it because then you have Dahomey as a starter for until you.
Well, what's a good offer, Steve? Right? I know it's not the
that's it. Yeah,
his transfer market value has dropped significantly.
Yeah. But if you get what's bottom, I'm not. You can't expect to make the money back, but if you can bring back money that is relative to what he is right now, then I would go for that. If it's at whatever his current value is.
I mean, the rumours were that there was Mexican sides interested in him, and I think his game is well suited to going back to Mexico, and there's going to be takers there. But it's whether they meet what the Whitecaps are looking for, or whether the Whitecaps are let's just cut our losses here and just get him out, because I think that is what they need to do. And if they lose on it, they're losing it.
No, they need to bring in at least enough money to have that GAM kind of thing, they build up their GAM. You know how if you a certain percentage goes to GAM or whatever.
There is a possible trade in the league, and I won't do my TFC thing again, but you've got to think someone in MLS would look at Cava and go, "Oh yeah."
I don't know, man. I'm not sure. He's not. The problem is if it was just that he was struggling, that'd be one thing. But the fact that he does this like yellow card and really
Yeah.
disastrous tackles and everything. A lot of people don't like that kind of play.
So there's two other forwards to talk about. David Egbo, our draft pick, all the talk was, when Cava goes away with the national team, David's the guy that we're looking to probably step in June and July, etc., etc. Except in June, he was loaned to USL side Phoenix Rising. 17 appearances, 5 goals, 1 assist. It's not too bad, but I feel, he could thrive in the reserve league environment, but I think he would do better to have another season somewhere in the USL. We keep his rights and we just let him do that.
Yeah, I would say so. Keep him in the USL, get him his green card so he doesn't count as an international, and then bring him back, because I think he still might count as an international at this point.
Yeah, he does. Theo Bayer then is their last guy to talk about altogether. He played 4 games just for the Whitecaps this year, 27 minutes in total, 2 shots in that time, no goals, no assists. He's 22 now. He was loaned to Norwegian second-tier side HamKam in August to the end of their season, which is now. 18 appearances for them. He's got 4 goals. By all accounts, he's done well. HamKam have got promoted, and the word in the street is they want to make the loan deal permanent and keep him there. I think you do it. If they want to sign him, it's like, I think it's the best thing for Theo.
For sure.
He's going to be loving his time there. You see that with his social media stuff, just how he's kind of performing there. He's in a good environment. He's going to learn a lot. He's going to become a better player. Is he, though, a guy that you could look at now and go, hey, he has come on. Maybe he can now do it for the Whitecaps in MLS? Or if they come in with money, do you just say, yep, bye Theo, all the best. We wish you very, very much success in the future?
He had to be at the level where he could be a starter. And at this point with Casido, if you're going to bring Casido back, Dahomey, White, and you're probably going to bring in another striker in, no, you don't bring him back at all.
Yeah, I think if Theo wants to go, I think you help them make it happen and collect whatever money you can in the process.
Yeah, that's exactly where I am with Theo just now as well. And I wish nothing but the best for him, but I think he's in the best place for his future. And coming back here, I think would be a regression for him. And he's not going to get the minutes that he needs to be getting to keep that level going. And I'm excited to see what he can do in the top Norwegian league next year. So, that's definitely one to watch. So that is it. We'll hopefully find out this week as to who has had their options picked up and a bit more. I still have concerns about midfield output in terms of goals. I do feel we need to address that. I think it's going to be an interesting off-season. I don't think it's going to be the busiest off-season in terms of additions. I guess I'll just finish with one question to both of you. We'll start with you, Steve. Do you see these acquisitions that the Whitecaps need coming from outside MLS, or do you think they might try and get something done with GAM or even some trades or something to get some MLS guys in? When you look at the success of White and Jungwirth, experienced MLS guys that's come to the team, and you look at Nashville, the success they've had with experienced MLS guys.
I have no problem with bringing in MLS experienced guys. The problem I have is that, are they willing to come? And in the past, they haven't been. But maybe that changes with, like you said, White and Jungwirth. More players are looking
and hopefully a full season that's going to be in Canada.
Yeah, and the thing is now, it just hasn't happened before. So maybe now there's a chance it can happen. And I would agree that there are options out there, especially with there being more free agents out there too. Like I talked about before, Raheem Edwards would be a good option. If you splash a lot of GAM, maybe bring Alistair Johnson to bolster that back line out. So, there are options out there, not just Canadian, but other players that are around the world. Like bringing Alistair Johnson, like he definitely has an impact in Nashville, but him having an impact in Vancouver, I think would be greater. On like it's similar to Kamal Miller going from Orlando to Montreal. Similar kind of thing. He has a bigger impact in there, and he's kind of closer to the national team too.
He's one of those guys that you would say, look, try and get a bumper deal done for this.
Yeah.
But is that something Alistair Johnson's going to want? Like, would he not want to go maybe to Europe?
Well, yeah. I mean,
But
I think...
I think you guys are like overrating him a little bit right now at this point. I don't think he's... I think he needs a couple more years in MLS before he can go to Europe.
Yeah, he's not quite at Tejon Buchanan level
No.
of just going to Europe and probably fitting in right away. But it's going to be interesting times. It's going to be interesting to see where they want to take this team, because we've made the playoffs. The next stage is you've got to get at least one level more next season and make the conference semi-finals or the conference finals. That's the step the Whitecaps have to take. And to make that step, they need to improve this team in a number of areas and strengthen positions. And some of the guys that you might want to have here might not be the guys to do that. So we'll see what happens with all of that. It's a lot of the off-season to come. We'll have it all covered for you here at AFTN. That is it for our Whitecaps chat, though, for this show. We're going to turn our attention, though, to what's been happening in the rest of MLS, because the playoffs are still underway, and it's been a very exciting weekend. And we'll be back with that after this.
Hi, I'm Vanni Sartini, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's that sad time of the month. It's the final song from our Artist of the Month here at AFTN for November. From out of New Jersey, it's Xylophone, punk band, Crazy and the Brains. That's a song from last year, and it incorporates the chorus of the 2006 Rick Ross song, Hustlin'. It's taken from a charity compilation CD that you can find on Bandcamp, as with all their stuff, crazyandthebrains.bandcamp.com. Go and check out the stuff. Very talented band. Lot of good stuff on there for you to listen to. And that is their song, Hustlin'. And I love that. I thought it was a good way to end them. I hope you've enjoyed their residency. We'll be back with new Artist of the Month next month. Or I should say Artist of the Month for next month, because it's a solo artist that I've picked. And it's a guy that long-term listeners will be familiar with. See if you can work that out. But anyway, hustling there, and there's a lot of MLS teams still hustling as the MLS playoffs are still in full flow. And wow, what a week it's been of playoff action. I joked at the start the season was over, but it's been a really exciting time in the MLS playoffs, and it's been on the whole, a good advertisement for the league. Maybe not every single game, we'll come to that. But the Western Conference final is set. And I don't know how many folk had 4th-seeded Portland hosting 7th-seeded RSL, but that is how everything played out. In the semis, Portland got past Colorado on Thursday afternoon. Weird Thursday afternoon football. It was my third game of the day after watching 2 Europa League games, but it was for Thanksgiving. Interesting of the league to go up against the NFL. We'll be curious to see what the numbers they get. But a dramatic 1-0 win for Portland over the Rapids, thanks to Larry's Mabiala's 90th minute winner. He hadn't scored a goal all season, scored in the quarterfinals, scored again in the semi-finals. What an impact player he is. The Rapids were the better team, I felt, in this one, but Portland defended so well and they limited Colorado's clear-cut chances. I mean, the scenes when Mabiala scored, it was incredible. And then more scenes in stoppage time, craziness, as Asprilla got sent off 4 minutes into stoppage time. Stupidity? Was it worthy of a red card? I genuinely...
Well, he had him in a headlock and then he gave him a strike to the face. So yeah, I'd say it's worthy of a red card.
If you can't do that, the game's gone. I don't know that he had him in a headlock. They were just kind of tussling, and his arms
they were tussling.
Swung.
Yeah, but he definitely swung it at him and hit his face.
Yeah, he's going to miss the final now, which is a big blow to Portland, who could also be missing Sebastian Blanco, who went off injured in this one after just not long back from injury.
In tears too.
I think he knew it was a bad one. I although it's the Timbers and you're meant to hate them and stuff, I felt so sorry for Blanco because he had just come back and he's such a key player for them. Asprilla also looked distraught because I think he'd realised what he'd done there. But for first place Colorado, one and done, and it was a disappointing way to end what was their club record-breaking season. What did you make of this one, Zach?
Yeah, I feel a little bit bad for Colorado. Probably more so because of the Mac factor.
Yeah.
But Portland is a team in the playoffs that you can't count out. They
know how to get it done.
Yeah, they've done quite well in the last half a dozen or so years in MLS playoffs. But yeah, Asprilla, Michael. Yeah, I think you can't be surprised when you get a red card when you act that way. I liked your comment in our chat where you called it Cava-like.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing you'd imagine him doing, because it'd be like, okay, we've basically won the game. We're going to be playing in a conference final. Oh no, my temper's got the better of me because I'm petulantly not getting the ball.
Yeah, and so it sets up for their semifinal, MLS Cup semifinal. It's going to be quite a battle, I think. They're going to
and the thing is this is the whole thing about, having that first place bye, and then you have the international spot in the middle there. You basically haven't played for like 2.5 weeks, and then you play a team that just recently played and they're kind of warm. So how advantageous is that overall spot?
I know. I mean, it was a game that you could see going either way going into, even though Colorado were first, because Portland, they can go and get those results. You've got to admire them for that.
Well, Colorado's been so dominating at home this year, like really dominating. Like,
I mean,
you don't expect
they
to get
played well, but they just weren't firing. But I think a lot of that you have to give credit to Portland for the way that they defended, and then to go and snatch at the death like that, it was like, wow! Just
from a guy who's never scored all year.
Yeah, he's having a great time in the playoffs. So Portland in the final. The only thing to decide would they be hosting, or would they be travelling to Kansas City? Well, the other semi-final took place today, Sunday afternoon. Whitecaps conquerors, Sporting Kansas City, hosted Whitecaps landlords, Real Salt Lake. And this could have been the Whitecaps hosting Real Salt Lake, because before we get into that Western Conference semi-final, let's just wind it back a few days to Tuesday and talk about the hilariousness of RSL getting past Seattle, in Seattle, on penalties, after registering no shots, not talking shots on target here, just no shots at all through 120 minutes, Steve.
Yeah, it couldn't have happened to nicer people. But overall, It's the way they played a certain way, and they got through it, and it's just amazing how they do that. For the Kansas City game today, obviously they didn't have enough motivation to win the game, to do anything today. Nobody gave them enough motivation. So
Yeah,
clearly
there was
clearly
nothing
that's the
pinned
issue.
on the bulletin board.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't watch the Pablo Mascueni post game thing. Did you guys see that?
No.
No. Oh, no. I heard it wasn't shown on TV.
Well, it wasn't quote unquote fit for TV.
Yeah, I heard that. I would
no.
have thought Peter Vermees would have been like, we got screwed the last time these guys here at the end of the season. That would have been all the motivation they should have needed.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
for
know.
real.
That's amazing that they are able to pick up 2 wins in like a matter of weeks.
I know, in such a tough place to go. But that Seattle game, Zach, I mean, let's be honest, as hilarious as it wasn't a great advertisement for Major League Soccer
No,
at all.
no,
But
it wasn't that for sure. I mean, but Seattle.
he got the job done. I mean, Carl Robinson would be turning in his grave watching that. Also known as Western Sydney Wanderers. You got a big win yesterday. I watched that game last night. Anyway.
Nice. I gotta get you to send me updates or alerts or links for those. Yeah, no, I mean, Seattle is like we talked about over the last few months. They're the best team in MLS since they've been in MLS.
First time they haven't got through the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, so they'll be extremely disappointed.
Yes,
I saw a little bit of. I saw some sober second thoughts from some of their people that I know, just talking about how they weren't good enough and how they obviously underperformed. But I feel bad for Brian Spencer because he's a quality coach and a quality person. But I mean, obviously we're most disappointed because you won't be able to celebrate with your friends this year, Michael.
Yeah, I thought MLS Cup. Border, don't need a PCR test if you're down for 72 hours. It's perfect. I guess it could still be in Portland, could it? Possibly. I haven't looked at points and stuff with that. But last thing on this. Is David Ochoa the most unlikable player in Major League Soccer these days? He's high up there. If he played for your team, you would love him for his shithousery.
No.
But, man, he was lucky not to be sent off.
Yeah, that's not the kind of player I would want on my team personally.
I mean, he had picked up a yellow and he's chipping away at the ref a lot and just getting involved in stuff he didn't need to get involved with. I didn't know that they had changed the rules, or I'd forgotten I'd read this, that the yellow card was wiped out in the penalty shootout. Yeah. I thought we were going to get another incident like last year with the Orlando keeper and he was going to get sent off for coming off his line or something.
So they said during the today's match, the Sunday match, that, or they interviewed, I think, Mascherani, and he said, or maybe it was in the interview. Anyways, they talked about how Mascherani had talked to him this week about, I don't know what the language he used, controlling himself. But I believe he got a yellow card in that game too, I believe.
Yeah, he got a yellow card today, and at the end of the game, he had his hands up at his ears going like that to the crowd. So,
this is the same guy that kicked the ball into Minnesota.
Exactly. I was going to say, I'm surprised he didn't kick the ball in the crowd.
I mean, he's up there for most unlikable player. I mean, you've wanted to do your Asshole of the Week award for ages, Steve. I mean, he's right up there to possibly win that a lot of weeks.
And the thing is, the fact that he's chosen Mexico too to represent, that puts him more into that level.
I mean, he's going to be getting abuse from the fans, no doubt, without that. But, I mean, sometimes it can act as a distraction as well. And, I mean, let's get into the game today, because RSL, after stunning Seattle, went to KC and they stunned them 2-1. By actually having shots today. They actually had 11 shots on target this afternoon, which was 6 more than Kansas City. 5 of those 11 were on target to KC's 2. And, I mean, KC were the better team for spells of the game, but then RSL just slowly got into the match. In the second half, they were looking decent and dangerous, and then they came up with a late winner. KC took the lead, 24th minute, Johnny Russell penalty. The commentators played up the fact that all of Johnny Russell's penalties, he always hits them to the keeper's left. And he did, again. And Ochoa dove to the right. And it's like, surely you would think if he's always going to the left, he's going to go to the left. But I don't know. Anyway, I was happy.
That's bad coaching. On not telling the Toya to go to the left.
Johnny Russell scored, and I thought, that's it. KC's going to host Portland. Phew. KC's going to beat Portland. Phew. But no. RSL got back in it. And it was like their subs that did the damage.
Yeah.
Anderson Julio headed home, 73rd minute equaliser, and then a stunning winner, 91st minute. It's like, oh, Portland, hold my beer if you want some late drama. Let's go into stoppage time. It was a nice finish from Bobby Wood. Their 8th stoppage time goal of the year.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. I think you used the turning point of the game was the substitutions. And it was not just those players who Salt Lake brought on, but it was also taking off Kinda for Espinoza, which I think really turned it for Kansas City, because you brought on a player who, is gritty and can do stuff going forward, but he's not a creative type of player going forward. He's more going to boss the midfield in a general way, run the ball back and play it into the creative players. But Kinda was the guy who was pushing their attack, who was creating things, who was providing more options for them going forward. And as soon as you took that off,
they lost the hunger.
Yeah, they lacked anything going forward, other than trying to play in Shelton with his speed, and then the wingers didn't really offer much either, which is kind of too bad because they have guys who can be dynamic wingers. Both Chaloy and Russell can be very dynamic. And then the last thing, which I think was key, is last week we praised Graham Zusi for being a veteran in MLS who can shoot the ball from distance, used to be a midfielder, now playing right back. And you saw Justin Miram, who in his own right is a quality longtime MLS player, not as old as Zusi, mind you, but just recognize that he just needed to just push. Like, he's not like Miram himself is not like a speedy player, but he knew that he had enough pace to just push the ball past Zusi to get in the cross for Bobby Wood to nicely flick on or deflect that pass into the far corner. And those were the turning points in that game.
Yeah,
and they were missing, like, obviously Kralic played a big part in the game. Didn't really show up on the stat sheet, but Rusnak, did not.
Yeah,
was not even available for the. And
There's talk,
it was the second.
He could be back later.
Yeah.
It's second. It's funny enough. This week, my niece, whose name is Rusna, and her middle initial is K, had knee surgery. So that's why I was wondering. You guys didn't mention anything when I put that post.
When you put it in the thing there, I didn't quite get it. I was like,
I did.
That's why I put that. That's why I put that space between the A and the K, because I thought, see if you guys called me out on it. And then
I thought you just said a misspell or something.
No, but not having those players and then getting this work from the subs, it's great. I don't know how much RSL can handle keep this going though. I think eventually, they could be one of those teams that just keeps going. And just the fact that on Tuesday, we didn't talk about this, they eliminated the team that took their coach midway through.
Yes. So they were, I was delighted for that, because I still think that was a really shitty thing to do at that point of the season.
Yeah, that's great. Well, yeah, they talked about in the broadcast today a lot about how RSL is this ultimate underdog team because they are this club that is going through this turmoil of
the
ownership.
Yeah.
And you have your coach saying, "I'm going to leave to go be an assistant at a bigger club," and then you go and play them, and they're this big team who won an MLS Cup and a shootout without scoring any goals. And then you do that to them in the playoffs.
Yeah, and ironically, against the team that won the MLS Cup without having any shots as well. Yeah. So, what goes around comes around. I mean, does this mean Pablo Mastroeni's got the job? Surely it
If Sartini gets a job because of what he did, Mastroeni gets a job because of this.
I think it has to be. I was a bit pissed off with how KC played today, because it's like, why didn't you do that a week ago against the Whitecaps? Because we could have been hosting RSL and it would have been
wonderful. Because Sartini opened his mouth.
Yes,
Sartini opened his mouth. That's why.
Listen to
They did-
Steve.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, this past week, Saloy made comments about how confident he was that they're gonna win the battle against RSL. So they decided to make comment this week.
Oh,
It was
again,
on-
what
it
goes
was
around
on-
comes around.
Yeah, it was on MLS Soccer,
Oh.
the article and everything like that. So I was
I
going,
don't read that site anymore.
You just complained about somebody giving you motivation. Now you just gave another
Yeah.
team motivation. Like what?
So it's next Saturday afternoon, 3:30 at Piggy Park. Portland host RSL. I mean, Portland's going to be the favours. They've thumped RSL 3 times this season. They've put 12 goals past them, but hey, don't write off the salty ones. So in the East, we'll just quickly go through that. It was Philly v Nashville this afternoon. It was another nail-biter. This time it went to penalties. The fabulous Hani Mukhtar, who's had an outstanding season, had Nashville ahead in the 38th minute, but their lead only lasted until 2 minutes into first half stoppage time. Daniel Gazdag tied things up. No further goals through the 90, no further goals in extra time. It went to penalties. Horrible penalty shootout for Nashville. Their first 2 penalties were brilliantly saved by Andre Blake. So, I mean, let's say that. They were well struck, they were well saved. Their last 2 penalties were horrendous, and I think they're still flying through the air. They may have collided with Robert Earnshaw's free kick, and they're currently travelling around the earth as some satellites at the moment, but they were terrible. Philly won the shootout 2-0. And it had gone to round 4, and it's like, wow, that was not a good example of penalties.
But if you go to MLS, the site MLS, it's not going to show that there were misses. They all just have X's, so you assume Andre Blake see all 4 of them.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
for
Blake did
in the
well.
stats, in the stats it shows that he did all of them, and that's what sometimes the way the goalkeeper acts in the net, it forces you to do something that you're not comfortable with, and it makes you put it in the spot, and that gets in your head. So goalkeepers can get into penalty takers' head as well.
So Philly through to the final. I thought it was going to be a battle, an MLS Cup of 2 Western teams with Nashville making the switch. But who will they play? Well, the other semi takes place on Tuesday. New York City travel to New England, who have had to wait 23 days since their last game to play. Absolutely ridiculous. And like Steve touched on it earlier for Colorado, 23-day break. How is that an advantage to you winning? I don't know.
And the problem is in England is they don't have a coach that really fires up the team based on his demeanor on the pitch.
But he does know how to get the job done, I guess, in playoffs.
Yeah, come on, Tejan.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Tejan's got to win the MLS Cup now, right?
He didn't get a job done.
I like
national team.
Tajon, but I like Jim Curtin. A lot of time I've said before for Jim Curtin as a manager, so it'd be nice to see him get in.
Yeah, and my prediction from 4 or 5 years ago would finally come true.
Yeah.
Philadelphia finally does something.
He's still waiting for Miami to do well, though.
And our friend Jonathan Tannenwald.
Oh, yeah, of course, we'd be delighted for Jonathan. The Eastern Finals next Sunday at noon, so we'll see how that plays out. Just to finish off the show quickly, I want to stay in the East because we haven't done that a lot this year. I just want to briefly talk about the other 2 Canadian teams and a couple of things that's happened.
Let's pick over the bones from the East.
Let's pick. TFC. To the surprise of few, TFC have a new coach, and that man is the Dark Lord himself, 3-time MLS Coach of the Year, Valder Bob Bradley, joining his kiddo out in Toronto. He's going to be both head coach and sporting director. He's their 12th head coach in 15 years. That's a tremendous record.
Yeah, but they had a really bad record when they first came in.
They did.
So,
TFC President Bill Manning said, "We're entering an extremely important off-season. I know we have a team that needs a significant makeover. Bob has experience putting teams together and in getting them to perform at a high level. He understands the expectations and standards of TFC and is ready to take on this challenge." Now, Bradley's appointment on Wednesday came 2 days after Ali Curtis departed the club as GM and SVP of soccer operations. Mutually, it was said, to pursue other opportunities, but something I think many fans had been wanting to happen after the train wreck of the season. What's your thoughts on that, Zach?
That's the key. I think that's the key thing. I mean, I didn't like Ali Curtis at first because he was at Dead Bull, But then I didn't like Ali Kudus for what he did while he was at Dead Bull. There's a lot of, I mean, this might be, I don't talk about this a lot, but Dead Bull as an organization, I don't like what they've done to football clubs in terms of, destroying their history and all that. However, Dead Bull, especially in Leipzig and Salzburg, as a football entity, have done a lot of good things in terms of the football itself, not the culture around the club and all that kind of stuff. But Ali Curtis was someone who was not good at that stuff, and I think really destroyed some positive things and some positive relationships for Dead Bull New York. And so when he went to Toronto, I thought this will not go well, and it didn't. And I'm happy for the friends I have in Toronto who wanted him gone, and now he's gone. I think that's.
I think it all started with the selection of the coach as well. That was the biggest thing because it affected on the pitch because the relationships that coach had with some of the star players.
You're right. It played a huge role, and it was absolutely obvious to everyone that it was not their first choice. It was like, hey, we can't get who we want, so we'll go with Ali's former colleague. And so and Armas was not a fit and did not do well and went, and that was good. And I think everyone in Toronto is happy that Ali Curtis went. And Bob Bradley, he's not quite Bruce Arena, but he has the potential to really turn things around there. But I will say there's a small part of me that also thinks it could be an absolute catastrophe. Now, mind you, if this was a proper football league, in my perception, this would be a team that got relegated this year. I mean, think about that. They would have been relegated in a normal football league.
So, I mean, it's a big makeover, as they said. I mean, they're obviously going to throw lots of money at it. It looks like Altidore is their big loss. I would not be surprised if Altidore ends up at somewhere like Charlotte and then comes back to haunt TFC in the games there. But, I mean, what do you think of Bradley's chances there, Steve? Do you think he's going to be the difference maker right away, or might they have to be a little bit patient?
My concern is the fact that he's doing both jobs, unless he brings in like subordinates underneath that can handle a lot of stuff, so he's not split into two.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. I know Peter Vermees does it, but he's had his ups and downs doing it.
Yeah, I know Voldemort had a lot of Horcruxes, so I don't know how many Bob Bradley has.
Well, he's probably spread them all over the league, so he'll call them in. The Death Eaters will come in, and interesting times.
But like I said, like sometimes when you have both positions covered with one person, it's not good. But it all depends on what support he has. My thinking is that, like, I was thinking that when I heard that he might be sporting director, I thought he might be just sporting director, and he might bring in a coach like a Mark DeSantos. I thought possibly, but obviously that doesn't happen at this point because there's no way Mark DeSantos comes in as an assistant.
Well, no, he's going to East Fife for the vacancy there. I put his hat in the ring. He doesn't know that yet, but
wait, what about Kenny Miller?
Well, he's in the ring as well.
He wants all the.
We've just lost to a non-league team that is a junior team. It doesn't mean they're kids. It just means that they're in, I think, the 6th or the 7th tier of Scottish football, and we got humiliated at the weekend. So whoever comes in at East Fife needs to do a lot. Maybe it's a bigger job than Bob Bradley's got at TFC. I don't know.
No, but I think Bob Bradley will be fine. I don't know if he's going to turn them around right away. It all depends on what leaves and what comes back, and that's the biggest thing because they have a lot of high-ticket players.
Yeah, they're going to throw money at it, but they did that in previous years unsuccessfully.
Is Pozuelo okay? Because didn't he get injured? It was against Montreal or the game before the Voyageurs Cup final?
He is injured. I don't know how bad it is, but yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, he is someone they need healthy, but then Altidore, I think, gone. And does Soteldo stay?
Oh, he'll go. The fans want him gone. They haven't been too happy with him at all. Let's just quickly turn our attention to Montreal. I really want to get Zach's thoughts on this. So Montreal finished their season last weekend by lifting the Voyageurs Cup. We didn't really touch on that in last week's show because who cares? It wasn't us or Pacific FC. They had their end of season availability on Tuesday. Nothing too exciting came out of that, but they are still in dispute with the Ultras. And there was a recent meeting between the club and the supporters, and it didn't go well. And the club weren't happy that some stuff was leaked out from the discussions. Now, there's a podcast called MLS Now, that I wasn't very familiar with, but worth a listen. Check out their website because they've got a written piece on this as well. So they'd been speaking to a Montreal fan who had been at the meeting but wanted to remain anonymous. And the fan said that the owner, so Joey Saputo, and the supporters groups met to talk about the return of Section 132 on Sunday. But the owner said all sorts of shitty things to them as soon as they asked if he would change the name back. So these shitty things apparently included a comment about the small size of supporters voicing their concerns, saying that they weren't significant enough, and a threat to sell the club to an American owner who would then be intent on moving the club. Now, the club were really not happy with that, and they responded by saying that they'd had a meeting and they sought to hold further discussions with the group to hear their points of view, work together in ways to improve the relationship and help them to grow and broach the subject of the return to Stade Saputo, all while respecting our history. He said, unfortunately, the discussions were largely limited to the club's identity. The organisation is extremely disappointed to learn that some of the statements made during the private meeting were circulated publicly and, more importantly, without context, allowing for erroneous interpretations, particularly regarding our future in Montreal. So in short, they're saying, yeah, that is not what Joey Saputo said. He's not selling it to an American owner and they're not moving the club to the US. But it's a mess. And you've lost a big chunk of your support. Montreal, interestingly, have not released attendances all season. Do you feel bridges can be built, Zach, or is this like...
Can I mention one thing before Zach jumps in
Yeah.
about this? Like, I would say that while they could say that he didn't say anything, he could very well have said something, but he didn't mean it that way. Like, he could have insinuated that that's possible. And
well, yeah, I guess he could have said, look, you might not be happy with me, but what if an American owner came in?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then this guy took it that way. So
Yeah.
it could have very well been said.
I would agree. I would agree with Steve. That would be based on my experience and based on knowing some of these people. That would be my guess as how this all went down. Is Joey or one of his people made comments that were more like, "Well, what would be the worst case scenario?" And they took that as like a threat to sell the club to outside interests.
Because we've said here, if someone bought the Whitecaps, there's a good chance that they might not want to keep them in Vancouver. It's a reality.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I've known some of the UMO2 guys from like whatever years now, 15 years or whatever, and I haven't talked to them recently about this, but this is something. This is something extremely frustrating for them. The whole changing of the name did not sit well with them, does not sit well with them, and that's not something that they will change. So when they go into a meeting with the people from the front office or the ownership, yes, this is going to be the main subject of discussion because it's the most important thing to them that you have robbed them of their club's name.
Which I totally get, but
Yeah.
I just can't see the club going back on that now. I mean, if they did...
Well, they
hats,
could.
Hats off to them and say, well, you've listened to the supporters.
No, I think they could because Gilmore's not there anymore, right?
Yes,
so
and
I
he
think
did seem to be a driving force behind it.
exactly. Yeah, so I could see it because of that. If he was still there, no, I don't think it would happen. Now, I also want to say, and this is, I don't know these people as well, but one of the positive experiences of being in Edmonton was I got to meet some people that I've never met before, and I'll be totally upfront and honest. In Montreal, there are. The landscape, the supporter landscape is different. I mean, every city is unique, right? But in Montreal, you have UMO2, but you have all these, there's a number of other groups that have formed over the years. Now, there's some groups that are kind of in partnership with UMO2 that are formed, and I'm not going to say their names because I'm going to mess them up. But I know people who have had started up some supporter groups that were kind of adjacent to UMO2. And so we're kind of like on the same idealistic page as UMO2 for the most part. However, I forget how many years ago when that whole bell thing started on the ringing of the bell started in the opposite.
Oh, yeah, the bell ends.
Yeah, exactly. That's 1642 Montreal, that group started. Now, again, I'm going to be totally honest with you. When that group started, I was kind of like, I don't really have a lot of time for them. The bell thing I don't think is great, but I understand it could be meaningful for them. but I didn't really give them any time or any thought. Now in Montreal, I got to meet some of the guys from 1642 Montreal who had traveled to the game.
Did you ask them what's significant about 1642? Like 18 minutes to 5? Is that like when normal games would finish in the UK?
No, I think it's something to do about the year of Montreal. I don't know. It's the year of the city. I haven't looked it up, Michael. Don't ask me about.
I jest.
So anyway, but I did talk to them. I said, nice guys. Like I met Seb, I met Lizzie, I met Simon. There might have been a couple other guys. And it was great. One of the cool things about Edmonton is there was a shared capoing of the section because there wasn't a real capo stand and stuff. So it was shared between people from Vancouver and Edmonton and Calgary and Montreal and Toronto. It was kind of crazy. It was interesting. But so I got to meet these guys. And so I asked them a little bit. I'm like, do you know person X, Y, and Z from UMO2? And they're like, no, we don't know these people. And I said, do you get along with UMO2? And they said, no. So like there are factions within the Montreal supporter scene that they don't see eye to eye. Don't see eye to eye in general. And I'm guessing that this is one of the things that either they're on the same page against the FO, or the FO has found a way to get some people on their side, and so they're trying to limit the significance of UMO2. I would just say this, whatever. So I have a newfound respect for 1642 because I met some of the people now, and I didn't know them before, didn't know who they were and fully what they were about. But which I think is often our life experience, right? You don't know someone or you don't know something about them, you meet them and you have a newfound understanding or respect for them. But I mean, the Montreal Impact have to realize that the person who was in this meeting who conveyed their understanding of what was said and how it was said is extremely disrespectful to supporters. It's extremely unwise to talk. I mean, changing the dynamic of the conversation to talk to your some of your most passionate customers in that way, I think is extremely disrespectful and unproductive. And I say that as someone who, I'll be honest with you, I've heard the exact same things from people within the Vancouver Whitecaps over the years. You're not significant enough. You're not big enough. Your voice is not the true voice of many people, so we don't care. And you can go that route if you want, but I don't think it's helpful. And so I really think it would be wise for Montreal to Joey Saputo and whoever's still with him there to stop and say, is this a hill we really want to die on? Do we really want to keep section 132 or whatever? Do we really want to keep it closed for forever and put a symbol over it that is reprehensible, like which is egregious to these people who were not letting be there? Do we really want to continue to fight with people who are most passionate about the football club? Is that a battle we want to continue to have? Because honestly, these they're gonna lose in multiple ways. They're going to lose people's money. They're going to lose an element of the passionate support. Yes, they do have other passionate supporters, but I don't think you want to totally jettison people the way that they chose to this year. And I think it would be wise for them to hold up their hand, say, we wanted to do something. It didn't have the impact, pun intended, that we hoped it would have. And let's use a popular word in this season of life. We're going to pivot back to something that we had before because reasons X, Y, and Z. But yeah, I think it's a really sad state of where things are at in Montreal. And I hope that for especially the guys from UMO2 that I've known for years who are passionate about that, who started that, who have done so much over the years beyond buying tickets and going to games. I hope that they can get a meaningful resolution.
Yeah, hopefully things can get sorted out. It's not ideal. Interesting times in Montreal as well as Toronto. That is pretty much it, though, for this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. We've always got time, though, to finish with this episode's wavelength. And we've had a New Jersey theme going with our music this month, with our Artist of the Month, Crazy in the Brains. So I thought I would finish November with a wavelength from another New Jersey artist. He's called Mother Way. This is his song from his 2019 debut EP, and it's simply called Soccer.
All my friends are back at home. I can't shake that I'm all alone, but it's not to fret. They haven't met me. Don't hold it against me. I'm just playing soccer. One day I'll be the neighborhood rocker. Like a ball I'll be caught in net, 'cause they haven't met the likes of me yet. People think that I'm kind of dense. My conclusive mind makes no sense. I'm just unique. Quit that anti-jibe. Don't hold it against me. I'm just playing soccer. One day I'll be the neighborhood rocker. Like a ball I'll be caught in net, 'cause they haven't met the likes of me yet. I'm tired of writing this song, doubting myself like I do. It's cliche to think that I'm wrong, but how can you see I'm like you? Maybe I'll show them exactly who I'm meant to be. Maybe that's the key to be free. Oh. Don't hold it against me. I'm just being fruity. One day they'll be my punk rocker groupies. Like a friend they'll have my back end, 'cause the likes of me they cannot forget. Do 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 do
So that was New Jersey artist Motherway there with his song from 2019, Soccer. You can check that out on Bandcamp. But that is it now for this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. Just before we go, any final thoughts, anything you've learned this week, and where can folk find you online, Steve?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at WhitecapsBeat, and I learned this week that 1642, even though Zach didn't know what it was, means that it was the initial settlement of Montreal, one of the first settlements there, and they actually built a fortress there at that year as well. So obviously, probably that most likely has the reason why that they called.
Yeah, it's the founding of the city, right?
Yeah, founding of the city. Well, first settlement of the city. I don't think they called it Montreal back then.
All right, that makes it meaningful.
See, AFTN Soccer Show, come for the football chat, stay for the education.
Last thing, I should mention too. Shout out to the Highlanders for becoming the new BC League One team. There can only be one.
There's only one left, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who could it be?
Can't possibly say. So, Zach, where can folk find you online? Any final thoughts?
Oh, man. You can find me on Twitter at Zachary AM, part of Fraser Valley Fanatics. You can just there was a latest alert for the weather situation, and just the other side of the mountain I live on, there's I think been a mudslide, and so we don't have to be evacuated, but some people just down the hill a little bit have to be evacuated. So I'm just praying for no mudslides on this side of the mountain.
Yeah, that's because of all the weakness from that initial storm.
Who knew there was such a thing as an atmospheric river? I've never heard of that phrase before.
I didn't, and I did geography at school. Anyway, they probably taught me that and I've forgotten all about it. It was a long time ago. I am Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Read our stuff away from the numbers, aftn.ca. And yeah, follow us on YouTube, youtube.com/AFTN /AFTN Canada. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that kind of stuff. And I learned that the place that I watched my A-League games last year on YouTube, free and legal, aren't doing it this year. And I couldn't work out why Week 1's games weren't on the channel. It's because there's a new YouTube channel. So if you are interested in the A-League and you want to have some fun in the MLS off-season watching that, maybe you want to cheer on Kyle Robinson and his Western Sydney Wanderers, the YouTube channel is called Keep Up, all one word, KEEPUP. Lots of games on there, they're free, it's legal to watch, and they've got highlights of all the matches as well, and there's been some really entertaining games. I'm really enjoying all the A-League action. Go Wellington Phoenix! Always like an underdog story, and the New Zealand team in Australia, that does it for me. But that is it for this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. We will be back with another episode soon. Until then, thanks for listening, take care, stay safe everyone, and mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.